We're going to make a series of layered crescents around the oval Rhodes. Now, if you want to, you can stitch one oval Rhodes and then the crescents that go around it before you move on to the others. I think you'll find it easier to count if you will go ahead and stitch all of the oval Rhodes, because the layered crescents are going to obscure this point, and this is the point that you're going to need to count from. So if you think you can do it, go for it, but I think you'll find it easier to go ahead and count from this point and then do your oval Rhodes, all of them at the same time. Now I'm going to begin my crescent with a loop start because I'm using an even number of threads. And when you're doing a loop start, you want to make it over a single canvas thread or a single intersection instead of a long stitch like the first stitch is for this. This is a long stitch, and I'm afraid that a loop start would not be completely caught the way I want it to be. So I'm going to make my loop start small, and then I will start my stitch. Now this crescent, you're going to stitch both halves at the same time. And you'll notice that I didn't have to do a lot of counting because it's going to share a hole at the tips of the oval Rhodes, and this is where it meets, just straight stitches. So now I'm going to bring my needle up and over this first stitch and over the second stitch. So it's going to have kind of a pinched appearance at the top of the crescent. This first crescent is sharing holes with the oval Rhodes. I also wanted to point out that if you want to change any of the colors beyond what I've suggested, feel free to do that. This is your project, and you should stitch with colors that make you happy. Okay, now this I just have a couple more stitches to make, and so this is going to be the 5th stitch and should be the final stitch. I'm stitching kind of at an angle, and so it's if I were right on top of this, it'd be a lot easier for me to see. Now I still have a lot of thread in my needle, so I'm going to go ahead and stitch the second pair of crescents. And again, you're going to bring the needle up in the shared hole with the first crescent and the tip of the oval Rhodes. And then the second stitch, just like the first two. And I'm going to kind of move the thread aside so I can see where to bring the needle up. With the thread laying over the channel that it goes in, it can be a little bit difficult to see. So, feel free to move the thread aside if you need to, so that you can see it better. As you get more stitches in and the thread kind of pulls away, it's easier to see. And just a little bit more, and this little crescent will be finished. Okay, one more stitch and we're finished. Okay, that's the first pair of crescents.